All right, guys, so we got to talk about Twitter Files Part 5 that just dropped courtesy of Barry Weiss, who is an independent journalist. Now, these Twitter Files, in my opinion, are particularly interesting because, like all the Twitter Files, they do tell us what we already knew, but it confirms the internal processes and what goes on in these social media companies in regards to how they determine who to censor and what to censor, and based off what standard. And in this Twitter file, it reveals that clearly these social media companies don't even abide by their own standards when it comes to content moderation decisions, and also decisions about whose accounts are allowed on the platform and whose accounts are not allowed on the platform. And they won't follow their own rules if there's enough internal pressure from all the woke revolutionaries that they've hired to work in their companies and outside forces as well. They will basically break their own rules in order to appease the mob and their feelings. And that is basically what happened with President Trump, as Twitter accused him of inciting violence or glorifying violence as justification for why they suspended him after January 6th, even though it is revealed in these Twitter files that the executives at the company knew that Trump was not inciting any violence. He had not broke their rules, but suspended him anyways because of woke leftist pressure to suspend Trump, to ban Trump off the platform, something they basically have been trying to do for years, okay? Because personal bias, right? Anything that goes against that personal bias is violence, according to the left. So I want to talk about a few key revelations that was put out there by Barry Weiss and these Twitter files. But first, I want to play a clip from Fox News to give you guys just an overall summary of what is revealed in these files. And then we'll, again, go over a few key revelations here that I believe have broader implications, in the sense that this is something that is probably happening at all of these social media platforms, which can explain how a lot of content that was put out there, specifically Trump's speeches, the things he was saying after January 6th, just kind of disappeared from the internet, because all these companies were probably going through the exact same process internally. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll the clip from Fox News. Take a look.
Part 5 of Elon Musk Twitter files dropping. It just happened a couple minutes ago in a new thread.
Yes, independent journalist Barry Weiss revealing the aftermath of the ban on former President Donald Trump. The document coming to light courtesy of new Twitter owner Elon Musk, today revealing that staffers believe tweets written by former President Trump around the events of January 6th had not actually violated Twitter policies, despite the company saying so at the time. Chief correspondent Mike Emanuel is live in Washington. What new, Mike, are we learning?
Fascinating, John. Basically going through the steps that led to President Trump's removal in the aftermath of January 6th. The fifth installment of the Twitter files is all about the removal of then President Trump from the social media platform after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Independent journalist Barry Weiss tweeting a short time ago, quote, "On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. At 6:46 a.m., the president tweeted about the 75 million people who voted for him, noting, quote, "They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form." And then Weiss reveals internal debate from unnamed Twitter staffers about whether that was incitement. Weiss notes, quote, "After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. Quote, there is a lot of employee advocacy happening," said one Twitter employee. "There was some internal pushback. Quote, I am not seeing clear or coded incitement in the DJT tweet," wrote Annika Navaroli, a Twitter policy official. "I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no vios or violations for the DJT1. Weiss also notes former President Trump was treated differently than some foreign leaders. Quote, "In June 2018, Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei tweeted, Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen." Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. And India's prime minister tweeted in early February 2021, threatening to arrest Twitter employees if they restored accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban him.
Makes you wonder if they ban Donald Trump and then leave Ayatollah Khamenei on the site. What would they do if Genghis Khan was still around?
Exactly right. I mean, I guess they're only concerned about American politics.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would go even further than that. I would say they're not just concerned about American politics. They're really only concerned about silencing people that they disagree with politically, because they only apply these rules. Imaginary rules, really, because it's not even their rules, okay? They only apply this stuff to people on the right. Like, for example, why in the world has Maxine Waters not been suspended from Twitter or social media, considering how she's been inciting violence? And I really don't think she's actually been inciting violence. I'm just saying, based off the left standard for inciting violence, yeah, she should not be allowed on any platform, right? I guarantee you, none of the people that were out here egging on the BLM riots and the Antifa riots and the Roe v. Wade riots, I guarantee you, none of those people were banned, right? Because of incitement, even though there was actual real world violence that was occurring because of things that people were saying on social media. I mean, you can define back during 2020, right? In 2019, you can define, honestly, posting videos of police officers shooting unarmed black men as incitement of violence, because that's literally what led to a lot of these protests. It led to a lot of riots. It's just people posting those videos over and over and over and over again, right? If you want to go with that loose definition of incitement, if we're going with the definition they applied to Trump, but what we learned here is that the definition that they applied to Trump really had nothing to do with their own policies on the books. It actually had to do with the leftists having their feelings hurt, right? The leftists being soft, right? And because when leftists cry, for whatever reason, people are sympathetic to this stuff, they tend to get their way, okay? As you can see here from Barry Weiss. But Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said that Trump had not incited violence, not even in a coded way. So basically what they're saying is that there's no reasonable way to interpret that Trump was inciting violence, right? But again, they went through mental gymnastics to try to say that, Trump had, incited violence some way. So let's read more here. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijay God, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could in fact be coded incitement to further violence, right? So again, they're trying to get a technicality here. Okay, this is mental gymnastics here. This is again, when you're letting your personal bias get in the way of actually enforcing the policy objectively, right? This is what happens. This is exactly how it is. And this is why I find this stuff to be so interesting, because I'm on social media. I'm on YouTube, right? There's no doubt in my mind that it works very similarly on other platforms, not just Twitter, in regards to how they do this stuff. And I'm going to tell you guys why I believe that in a little bit here. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scale enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy if you interpreted the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters. Again, nobody got suspended for egging on and supporting the BLM rioters. Nobody. So again, this is not a serious thing. This is them, again, trying to do mental gymnastics to try to say, well, if you interpret American patriots to refer to the rioters, he's talking to the people that went to the Capitol and committed so much violence, right? This is what he's talking about. Then basically, it is glorification of violence, right? Again, this is absolutely incredible. You have to literally change the meaning of the word American patriots to fit a meaning that you want to justify enforcing a policy that's not on the books, right? That doesn't go along with what is actually on the books. It's actually insane. Things escalate from here. Members of that team came to view him as the leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence/deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. Yeah, so they literally thought that Trump was Hitler. They literally thought that Trump was Hitler, guys. Right? And then once they got Trump banned, they wanted even more power, right? Because, again, once you give an inch, they're going to take a whole mile. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. By the next day, employees expressed eagerness to tackle medical misinformation as soon as possible. Yeah, so these same blue-haired woke revolutionaries, after they banned Trump, right? Now they want even more. They're like, hey, we got to go out of COVID misinformation now, right? AKA people who don't agree with the Democrat Party. Because it can't be about the facts, right? It's not about the facts, because all these people were wrong. They're not doctors, which is funny because these are the same people that be quick to tell you when you're talking about the gender conversation and what is a woman, they say, well, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But for whatever reason, these same people who claim they're not doctors, they're very quick to tell us they're not doctors, they're not medical professionals, feel like they can be the arbiters of truth on a virus, right? COVID-19, which is funny to me because when the right states biological facts, apparently that's a form of hate speech, right? That's hate speech. Okay, that's violence, according to the left. Biological facts. Now, the left will turn around and not peddle actual facts, okay? They peddle a narrative, and then they want to say, well, it's facts. When it's clearly not a fact, it's clearly not true. And then social media, they have to do this backpedal where they have to get rid of all these ridiculous policies that they had, right? Where they were banning people, kicking people off the internet for saying certain things about the pandemic, the virus, the vaccine, that ultimately turned out to be true, right, in the end. Again, it's just funny how that works. So yeah, I mean, these people just, they don't stop. And I think this tweet right here is probably the most important part of the Twitter files that Barry Weiss dropped, because this kind of sums up the direction we're headed in here, right? She says, there were dissenters inside of Twitter. Quote, maybe because I'm from China, said one employee on January 7th. I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. Ding, 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 ding. And the left does as well. This is why they do it. Because they know that if they simply scream at the top of their lungs that what you're saying is violence, what you're saying is hate, even though it's clearly not hate and it's clearly not violence, who cares? If you continue to scream that at the top of your lungs, that is a way to silence people. That is a way to pressure people who actually have some common sense, right? Like the people that run these companies, they're smart people, right? They're not stupid. They might be ideologically driven, but a lot of them know that, okay, this is not glorification of violence, right? But because, again, you know, they have a left-wing slant, everybody is sympathetic to the left and the crybabies on the left, for whatever reason, I don't know why, okay? What happens is that they have a lot more pull, right? So when they start crying about stuff, they don't cry because they actually really hurt. They're crying because they want to silence dissenting voices, right? That's what they want to do. Again, violence and hatred is being used as a shield for their personal bias, right? For censorship based off their own personal bias. That's what's happening. And I guarantee you, this is what's happening at all these platforms, not just Twitter. And I'm going to tell you guys why. Because if you guys notice, it is very difficult to find any of the videos that Trump was putting out after January 6th, right? So he put out a ton of videos in which he was doing, you know, interviews or whatnot, or he'd be talking to news media. It is extremely difficult to find those videos. Well, the reason why is because all these tech platforms basically decided that, hey, we're not going to allow anything that Trump says, even though he's the president of the United States, after January 6th, we are not going to allow that on our platforms because we believe that it's incitement of violence, even though he clearly did not incite any violence in any of those things, right? If anything, he was telling people not to be violent. But again, they literally will interpret the man saying, don't be violent, right? Or to go home peacefully or whatever. They interpret that as violence, guys. These people are not living in the same reality. These are the people that we're dealing with. And they have infected all of these companies. All of these companies they've infected. Every single last one of these social media companies, the big ones. And not just social media, but also liberal media as well, too. They're all being ran by liberal, woke activists being funneled into these companies through the university system. And that's why I think these Twitter files are so important, because it's not just about what's happening inside of Twitter. It's about what's happening inside of all of these companies. Because looking at it under a microscope and just saying, well, it's just Twitter, that makes it seem like it's not a big deal. But that's just simply not the case, because it's not just Twitter. I guarantee you every single last one of these other platforms went through the exact same process. You had these people on the inside, these woke revolutionaries that started just protesting the company saying, look, we're going to stop working if you don't do this, blah, blah, blah. Our feelings are hurt. Oh, my God, Trump's hurting people. Oh, my God, COVID. Yeah, they just started doing that, and these social media companies responded. They capitulated, right? Between them and the advertisers, right? That's the problem. Now, obviously, again, you got the government, the Biden administration as well, too. But again, they're all on the side of the Biden administration. So it's basically the same. It's basically the same. Again, it's just crazy to me how, again, we were told when we were screaming about this that, oh, this is a conspiracy. You guys don't have proof. This is not happening. When clearly it was happening. Clearly everybody knew that these social media platforms were biased. Just look at how they handled BLM/Antifa versus January 6th. Objectively, BLM and Antifa were way worse than anything that happened on January 6th. Roe v. Wade was worse than anything that happened on January 6th. But again, look at how they talk about January 6th versus those events. They don't even talk about those events because it's bias, right? It's not about political violence. They're totally fine with political violence as long as their side is doing it. When the other side does it, though, it's the end of the world, right? It's an insurrection. It's terrible, right? Again, the deck is stacked against us, guys, and this is why independent media is so important. It really is, because that's the only way that people are going to break through some of the BS that, you know, we've gotten from the media over and over and over again throughout the years. Again, a lot of these companies, man, they're being ran by woke ideologues, and that's just kind of what it is, right? And until that changes, this is what we're going to have to deal with. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.